Well, they did it. Turkeys voted yes for Thanksgiving. I got to admit, I was wrong. Everybody's seen that video where I was yelling at Zohran Mamdani, trying to explain how the First Amendment works. And I was right about that, but I was wrong when I told him he would never be mayor. He's gonna be mayor. Look, here are the turkeys voting for Thanksgiving. No gravy, yes, cranberry sauce. And here's Zohran. He's telling you he's gonna carve it up, but everybody voted yes. Unbelievable. I realized something. When I told him that he would never be mayor, I was looking at the situation, and frankly all of New York, through the lens of an old man. You know, I'm talking 30 years ago, 1990, 35 years ago. The New York that I remember, it's not the same anymore. I mean, we got the World Trade Center down here. It's certainly not the same anymore. I'm about to get run over, but that's not the same. The city's not the same. The people aren't the same. It's a wreck. And so I mistakenly had faith in the people of New York City. I thought that, you know, people would see this is an inexperienced, know-nothing. See, I'm not even against the fact that he's Muslim. New York is and always has been diverse. We can have a moderate Muslim mayor. It comes back to this difference between a Muslim versus an Islamist, like a Jewish person versus a radical Zionist, a radical Islamist, you know, anything radical I don't like. I like embracing other people's religion, or at least enjoying it, you know. I can go to and have been to Hindu weddings, and you know, you share that culture. It's not about forcing other people to do what you want, but that is part of this. Do people remember, first of all, this goes to that guy Phil Haney who got murdered. This is pretty important. Before we get to Phil Haney though, I just want to reiterate how this is, I guess, appropriate. I'm walking by the Masonic place. Got to study this more. Masonry. Right? They've been around forever. They've been involved in all kinds of stuff. You've got Masonic halls in all countries, right? China. Don't they have, in Muslim countries, they have Masonic halls. They have them everywhere. But the other thing that happened on Election Day is the evidence bounty closed. And nobody was able to claim the bounty. Remember, there was a litany of idiots who came at me declaring, give me the money. Thanks, by the way, to everybody. Remember, the first 1,000 was my money when I initiated this bounty, but $3,314. You can still contribute to this, by the way, not the evidence bounty, but you can still sponsor Crowdsource the Truth on Patreon and Subscribestar, and you can use cryptocurrency or your credit card to sponsor for any amount. You can always go to crowdsourcethetruth.org, and nobody's been able to explain how those dots got there, apart from me. And it wasn't just some random explanation, remember. I wrote this technical paper that cites the facts. We're talking about MPEG high-efficiency video coding and 240 hertz subsampling. This was introduced with the iPhone 12. Apple gave their whole big technical marketing presentation about Dolby Vision HDR. I didn't make this stuff up. They tell us that multiple sub-exposures are used to create this radiance map. They don't tell us how many. That's protected by Apple trade secrets, but this Dolby Vision patent tells us right there that you've got your standard, 30 frame per second video layer, a base layer, standard dynamic range, and then an enhancement video layer. So that enhancement video layer, I mean, read the patent, you know? Explain what I've got wrong, because it's not wrong. That's the reason I offered this evidence bounty, is that I was so confident in what I was saying that I essentially knew it could not be proven wrong. This is what's called prima facie evidence. On its face, it's explaining it. And all these other guys who just said, oh no, this is wrong, were either haters who knew nothing, ignorant people who also know nothing, or social engineers. This is why I was so surprised at Cohen. Again, I didn't just hold my finger up to the wind and say, oh, that must be this. It was very well thought through. So that's why I offered the evidence bounty. The social engineers were the Tyler Youngs and all those other people who figured, oh, we've got Jason now. We'll take his money. We'll make him look stupid. We'll present this evidence video. By the way, why were those guys so close to the evidence video? You know, these are the same people, by the way, that Candace Owens is promoting. Zeb Boykin, Ryan Mata. You know, people keep emailing me, contact Candace, contact Candace. I'm done trying to contact Candace. I did that for several weeks after this happened. I thought she was sincere in her effort to want to solve this murder, and she's telling Kash Patel should work with everybody. I agree with that, by the way. Part of the reason why I'm not going to condemn Zohran Mamdani for being Muslim. I have no problem working with a Muslim person if we're aligned in our goals, like helping to restore New York City to its once great status. Remember, you know, when I'm talking about 1990, 35 years ago, I mean, we're sort of closer to 50 years ago when New York City was just, you know, or maybe 50 years ago in the 70s it wasn't the best. But Charles talks about the 60s when Singapore and Penang and cities like that were nothing, you know, huts or whatever. And New York City was the absolute premium. Dubai, go look at Dubai in 1965. I'm sure there was nothing at all going on there. You go there now, it's premium restaurants. I mean, it's been 11 years since I've been there, but it's only been on the up. Premium restaurants, premium real estate, hotels, every fancy car in the world. New York has become a dump. And I've said this several times. It's like the Cadillac Cimarron. We don't want a low-cost Cadillac that brought the whole brand down. Nobody wanted it, and people who had the good Cadillacs hated it because it made Cadillac seem crappier. It wasn't until they smartened up in the 90s and said, hey, we need high-performance 32-valve V8s and Corvette engines and $180,000 SUVs that the Cadillac again became a thing of prestige. That's the deal. That's what New York needs to be, not affordable for families. That's not what New York City is supposed to be about. It's about being an economic engine that is the envy of the world. You know, at some point, that's what this city was. Now, it's a dump. It's a literal garbage dump. You know, I've said it many times. Eric Adams spoke about the future of garbage. He is an idiot. He should have put out a bid to Tesla and Waymo, a request for a proposal. Tesla, Waymo, NVIDIA, Google, whoever. Design self-driving New York City sanitation vehicles that will be about the size of a small SUV, occupy one parking space on the street, have semi-permanent locations every other block or whatever it is. You put your garbage in there and the thing automatically detects when it's full and it drives to the garbage dump and a new one drives up. And people say, oh, the garbage people are going to lose their jobs. No, they're not. You offer everybody in the sanitation department a course to learn how to fix those self-driving machines, to program them, to fix them, to clean them. If you don't want that, you're fired. If you take the job, you can carry on. And start doing that. Innovative ideas to improve New York City, not stupid ideas that aren't going to work. There's some nice dogs there. That's what this city needs, is innovation. Just like nobody wants a Cadillac Cimarron. When Cadillac made a 500 horsepower, $180,000 SUV with air-conditioned seats and super duper stereo, whatever the hell they have going on in the Cadillac Escalade, suddenly everybody wanted it. And the brand was elevated. The whole thing was elevated. And guess what? Then, years on, somebody who could never afford a Cadillac, even a Cimarron, could get a used one. It trickles down. The success trickles down. By the way, I'm trying something new today. I know a lot of people were annoyed by the interruptions on the last walk and talk about Zohran Mamdani. I'm annoyed too. There's nobody more annoyed by it than me. Here's people talking to other people about how stupid Zohran Mamdani is, no doubt. I'm going to leave those guys alone. But dumb suggestions like, oh, Jason, why are you the only one? Because nobody else is trying to do exactly what I'm doing. I don't know if anybody else is walking around with a bonded link aggregating array using AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile to try to keep a continuous live stream. Because I've been doing this for 9 years, and I tried a lot of other stuff, and it didn't work. So I'm innovating. And just like people say, oh, Elon Musk's rockets keep exploding. I think everybody knows I have no love lost for Elon Musk. He's a dick who avoided my lawsuit like a hobo for months. And I think he'll face me in the appellate court. I hope he will. Actually, he won't face me in the appellate court, very likely. The appellate court will remand it to the district court, and then perhaps he'll face me. But the point is, you can't go and say, oh, Elon Musk, instead of blowing up rockets, why don't you get a horse-drawn carriage or a biplane? Those don't blow up. The point is, we've got to innovate. We can't go back. Same thing with stupid Zohran. So I guess what I'm getting at is, I've realized something. It's not Zohran that's the problem. It's all of these people who don't realize how stupid they are. They are the turkeys who voted for Thanksgiving, the people riding the bicycles on the sidewalk, the people riding skateboards in the park, the morons running around rioting all day rather than inventing that self-driving garbage can. Somebody could do it and become a millionaire. That's the other thing. I saw an interesting interview with somebody talking about how many millionaires, Zohran wants to tax the millionaires. Listen, I mean, if you open a restaurant, there's a guy who used to work for me at 21st Century 3D, and he came here from, Serbia or something like that when NATO was bombing the place. I'm pretty sure he didn't have too much money at all. I mean, he was working for 21st Century 3D, and when 21st Century 3D was on its way down and out, everybody had to be let go. This guy invented a product. I don't want to talk about it in too much detail, get my haters and lunatics up this innocent guy's ass. But it was a very clever product. And he started it on Kickstarter with a video he made on his phone. He told me that I inspired him to create this thing. All the work that we did on the 3D camera, his product has nothing to do with 3D or cameras. But, I reinvigorated his interest. He told me when he was a kid, he used to fix radios and dishwashers and stuff like that, and he got into tinkering. No formal training as an electronic engineer. But the work that we did on the cameras, it inspired him to create this product that he put on Kickstarter. First iteration failed, so he changed it around and made a better one, and it took off. And I had known a while ago that he sold the company. He's still the chief technology officer. That company had $25 million in revenue last year. So that's the American dream, right? This guy's, I guess, a millionaire, but he's one of these people that this Zohran interview was talking about self-made millionaires. Now, if the whole company is 25 million, I don't think he's getting 25 million. Let's say he makes $1 million, even $2 million a year. The amount of taxes you're going to pay on that in New York City, he's got kids, he's got a wife. Somebody making $1 million or $2 million, I mean, that's a huge amount of money, much more money than I make. But that's the type of person who you start raising all these taxes and he's going to say to himself, you know what, why do I need to be in New York? Go to New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Texas or Idaho. This product, by the way, doesn't require him to be in New York. So again, just like the Cadillac Cimarron, I actually mentioned this on Search Warrant yesterday. I've been a guest on that show a couple times now. Those guys are really nice. You can follow them on X. I mentioned that Cadillac Cimarron analogy, and Jake Jacobs, the former Philadelphia homicide detective who was the host of the show yesterday, I think John was sick. I'm not sure what was going on. But he said he owned a Cadillac at the time that Cadillac Cimarron came out, and he was pissed off because it reduced the prestige of the Cadillac. So that's what I'm saying. If you reduce the prestige of New York City, all of Cadillac will suffer. It needs to be a premium item so that people want to come here and invent their innovative products and create their $25 million companies. That's what it needs to be. Not every broke loser going to Asshole Foods or whatever Zohran Mamdani's government supermarket is going to be called. Because every fat jerk who's working in the park will now be smoking cigarettes in the produce section with rats running around. So it's going to be terrible. And you know, look, Charles is obviously a guy who sees trends and he's got his expertise, I've got my expertise. I think part of the reason we work so well together is that those areas are pretty disparate, even if we share certain points of view and ways of thinking, but they cross over. Here's the future of garbage under Eric Adams. It's not going to get better under Zohran Mamdani. I mean, you know, somebody ran as mayor and said, I'm going to clean up the streets of New York, literally. We don't have to walk around among garbage and criminals. We're going to clean it up. If that was the number one thing, I think that could be the whole entire platform. Clean up New York. Make a safe, healthy city for you and your family and your business to thrive. I think you could run on that simple thing, and it would improve the quality of life in New York City and make people want to be here. I think. I don't know. And you know what? I regretted not trying to run for mayor. It's a little ridiculous. Nobody knows who I am outside of Crowdsource the Truth. I don't think I could win for mayor. And people who are blaming Curtis, that's also stupid. Wayfair Christmas tree. People, I think, suspected Wayfair of doing something crazy. I don't know the facts on that. It's a nice little Christmas tree village they're building here. So that's nice. Christmas tree market. You may be photographed. I should walk around wearing that sign. But you know, not enough people have been talking about the fact that also Alvin Bragg got reelected. Oh yeah, I forgot to finish the idea about what I'm doing that's slightly different. So instead of telling Elon Musk to use a biplane, there's a Marmaduke-sized dog. You got to get into the problem of why the rocket is exploding. So I've contacted the software people who make this bonded link aggregating software. And by the way, they're the only ones who are going to be able to help me. You sitting at home who don't even understand what it is that I'm trying to do. Try portable Wi-Fi, try this, try that. I'm not trying to bang on anybody in particular, but like, please don't even do that. It's not going to help. You have to know more about this than I do to be able to help me. And those guys do. And actually, they're still looking at the problem, but even just in talking to them, I thought about something they said having to do with latency, and I've done something hopefully to adjust that. It seems to be working well. And also people say, oh, why does he do this? You know, believe me, I have my reasons. Every single piece of this system has a particular purpose and is being used for a particular reason. And I employ different types of technology at different times for very specific reasons. But anyway, the other thing people have been asking me about is they say, oh, where's Cullen? Contact Cullen and find out if he's all right. I appreciate people's concern for a fellow human, but I want to just put this information out there so people understand. I'm not going to do that for several reasons. First of all, if anything is wrong with Cullen, if he's ill, which I hope is not the case, or people are speculating that, the worst is possible. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do about that. So from that standpoint, contacting him is futile. But secondarily, my last contact with him had to do with his very irresponsible behavior of utilizing my image in conjunction with posts on X that are likely to be construed as true threats against lawyers. And I told him not to contact me again, and I'm not going to contact him again. So whatever it is that's going on with him, he's an adult. He can figure it out. If he wants to let people know that he is or is not all right, he'll do that, but I'm not able to help him anymore. Look at this, the park is closed. I guess they're building the Christmas village here. Yeah, there's a whole Christmas shopping deal. So right, it's almost Thanksgiving. The turkeys were applauding Thanksgiving. They were voting for Thanksgiving. They voted yes for Thanksgiving. I can't believe it. Yeah, so the city's going to crumble. I mean, Alvin Bragg, back as DA, if you ask cops, first of all, you ask the cops on the street, they're not going to tell you anything. But if you speak to Sal or John McCarry or Eric Dim, people who speak to cops and who were cops and are able to actually think about the things that cops think about, they will tell you.
All are welcome, chess players.
Chess players are welcome to have their money stolen by that guy. The people who understand what cops are concerned with and how they think know that when the district attorney isn't going to prosecute anybody, and to some extent you can't blame the cops for this, because if you're a cop in a particular neighborhood, just like I see Matola around all the time, he knows my name, he knows who I am, the cops know who these criminals are, the criminals know who the cops are. If you bust some guy's ass one day and then he's out of jail the next day and he starts to get the idea that he can do whatever and nothing's going to happen, they can bait the cops into, things that are going to get the cops lawsuits and fired and whatever. Why would any sensible person do that? More business closures. I guess that's been closed for a while. No sensible person would do that. I mean, they're basically, I don't know if this is by design or by stupidity. You got a noodle. But and it's a weed noodle. They've created a condition where the cops can't enforce the law. So again, I'm trying to not yell at people on bicycles anymore, because the most likely outcome is that I'll be attacked and injured. Actually, the cops did do something when that happened. We should talk about this scumbag too. Scumbag social engineer Kyle Seraphin. What a piece of shit that guy is. I'm very disappointed in Alex Jones. I was also talking about Candace. These people are promoting shitheads. So people tell me, oh, Jason, talk to Candace. There's one person in particular who I don't even think is a real person, because it's a fake named Twitter account coming at me in public comments like, oh, Jason, why are you attacking Candace? I did not attack Candace. okay? Candace was unfriendly to me when I met her in person. And aside from that, she doesn't know me. So I've had no contact with her, except that when this Charlie Kirk murder happened, I discovered evidence that really nobody else saw, specifically the drones in Adam Bartholomew's footage. Now, that should be of interest. I'm not making any comment on these Egyptian jets. I haven't really looked into that. It's interesting for sure, but I just don't know what they were doing there, who controls them, or what. I don't understand why she's prioritized that so much more than the U.S. Army jet and all the things that we know about that. It's interesting that that's also connected to Cullen, and it's interesting that the video that Cullen brought to me was made by this guy Blake, who is promoted by Ryan, who is promoted by Candace. So it just seems to me that she is deliberately ignoring me, amplifying Zeb Boykin, who had his fingers all over this 20 frame per second video that was then a 30 frame per second video. I have to emphasize again how unusual that 20 frame per second version was. That is not something that was casually created, that somebody just clipped on their phone or captured with a screen capture app on the phone or got by uploading to TikTok or X or YouTube or anything like that. Someone specifically chose to create that at 20 frames per second. Zeb was at least very evasive, didn't remember where he got it from, didn't make really any effort at all to figure out where he got it from. Mentioned by Candace. Then, when what seems to be the original video came up, that guy Tyler was also super duper suspicious about the evidence. He didn't want to talk to me at first. Sorry, before we get to Tyler, we got to talk about Samir Masi. He said it was his video, but it wasn't, because we see the other evidence of Samir Masi inside the building. He works for the school. He said he works for UVU Review. So whether he's a student or what, if he actually works for them, is he getting a check? Is he just a student participant in that? Is he the one who got Blake Bednar's the video that Chris Martinson says shows cavitation of the neck? Blake got it somehow. That's a government document. UVU is a state school that receives federal funding. That document is subject to grandma requests, and they said no when I asked for it. So that means Blake Bednar's obtained it illegally. Now, maybe there's journalistic value in that, but it's odd because Blake said, oh, I'm not even a journalist, I'm just a guy who's pissed off. So, okay, you're willing to break the law to get the file. Let's set aside whether that was good or bad that he got it. I don't think it actually told us anything more about who killed Charlie Kirk. If anything, it confused stuff. But whatever, not to gauge the value of the evidence, he says he's not a journalist, but he's willing to break the law to get that evidence. I saw him the other day offering $5,000 for evidence of, I forget what. Why is he so interested in this if he's not even a journalist? He lied to Clayton and Natalie about finding the drones. So it seems like there was a lot of effort around trying to obfuscate and misdirect people from these drones that I found, to not talk to me about that, not talk about what seemed to be an electronic exploit to shut down Adam Bartholomew. That was important stuff.
Pretty sweet ball.
It's also that guy, Baron Coleman, is that his name? I noticed he was talking about Cullen. Maybe that's what get these things into my feed. You know, the fact that I appear with Cullen, this guy talks about Cullen, maybe somehow that makes YouTube send me the video. But he mentioned Cullen, didn't mention me, and I'm not like, ooh, mention me. I'm just trying to put together how these things work, whether it's algorithmically or how they're trying to appeal to people and viewers, because then I see how other people react, and other people tell me, oh, look at this guy Baron Coleman found all these Google searches. And again, that's interesting. Maybe that's compelling evidence. It seems weird to me, though. How could somebody be so sophisticated? And I'm not saying that Israel wasn't involved in this. They might well be. I'm trying to figure out who did this. But how could the perpetrator be so sophisticated that they're able to involve U.S. Army jets, they're able to employ sophisticated electronic exploits, maybe shoot Charlie from behind, organize all these people to cover it up, whether it's Kash Patel or whoever. But it just seems that all of the people who are trying to say, how could they do all that and then be so stupid as to just do a publicly traceable Google search and concentrate a lot of them so that it leaves this super conspicuous evidence for everybody to find? It just seems a little too obvious to me. Maybe they are stupid. Maybe they did that. But all this Google Trends evidence, it seems suspicious to me. Suspicious in the same way that certain people don't want to talk to or about me. Here's another thing that's interesting, and it goes back to Kyle Seraphin. When I started posting all that information about the drones and the jet and the bullets coming from behind, you know, all the evidence that I was sort of investigating and bringing up. That guy's voice really was carrying and annoying me. But there was a good week and a half where basically every day I had a post that was going to 1 million views or even more. And it was really growing my Twitter account, growing the public notoriety around all this information. And that coincided with when Kyle Seraphin decided to start putting out defamatory, stupid shit about me. He got together with his buddy Gary from Paramount Tactical, who's friends with Chris Martenson, the PhD, who calls Gary dude. Aren't they unlikely bedfellows? How are those guys friends? And why is Chris Martenson, if he's interested in getting to the truth, why is he not looking at my video content when we're supposed to have a debate, and he tells me he'll look at it, not understanding my position on the facts when he's debating me, but then later releasing a smear that says I made everything up? Did Chris Martenson read that Dolby patent and say, no, Jason doesn't understand how this secondary video layer works? That's something, you know, he didn't say that. He didn't challenge. Oh, look at this. We got the police right here. So what is he doing? I mean, he's not actually stopping any crime. He's not telling people don't ride skateboards. I think it's too late for that. Everybody does whatever they want with the skateboards. I guess he's here to get on the radio in the event that some riot breaks out. He's not telling this guy, don't ride your bicycle too fast in the park where you're going to injure people. He's not even looking. This cop is pathetic. It's just interesting how these people all seem to be aligned, coordinated. Kyle Seraphin, he's got a very large Twitter account. A lot of people know who he is. He appears on Alex Jones. It's almost like they have these different tiers of social engineers, right? You got Candace and Ian up there in the millions. You got Kyle Seraphin in the hundreds of thousands. And you got George below that. Here's the life-saving systems of the mobile command unit. What is that? Pretty weird. I don't know what that's all about. But it's almost like they have tiers. It seems to me. I don't know. I'm looking through a keyhole trying to see what's inside the room. But it seems like they have these tiers, because frequently I've spoken about Kyle Seraphin, and when I'm not getting millions of views a day, he doesn't say anything. Because the truth of the matter is, a large account like Kyle Serafin's talking about a much smaller account like mine would seem to have the effect of promoting it and causing it to grow. See, that's the balance. And again, it takes me back to Cullen. Because there have been a lot of people throughout the 9 years that I've been doing this who have seemed to be allies, whether it's George Webb or Kevin Shipp or whatever it is. But there's other evidence that causes me to think that these people were just trying to get close enough to me to gain my trust and then do something to harm me at an appropriate moment. Whether that was to jam me up with a bomb hoax in the port of Charleston, or tell people, no, the bullet is moving away from Charlie. Why wouldn't Cullen call me and try to understand that? And how could a true ally listen to an explanation of how that Dolby patent works and how the Apple Dolby Vision HDR video utilizes it and come to the conclusion that, no, Jason is definitely wrong? I mean, again, I'm not saying that I've proven that. I'm just saying I've explained it. Nobody else can explain how those got there. I see people talking about somebody using a palm pistol. I see a lot of contradictory evidence. I think people standing around the palm pistol guy would have heard something. I think it's pretty difficult to aim and hit right on the neck with something like that. I spoke with Matthew Bowden, who said that he disagrees that it could be a palm pistol because the reflections of the audio would behave differently if somebody fired a gun from the middle of the amphitheater. That's what he said. Maybe a palm pistol is totally silent. I don't know. But I see a lot of these not well-supported theories, and not a single one of them addresses what these 3 dots behind Charlie Kirk are. The only people who have addressed those have been social engineers who seem to be aligned with one another against me for no reason other than they don't like me, they want to take my money, and they just want to say that Jason is wrong. They can't prove it. Even Chris Martinson, what a disgraceful piece of crap that guy is. Because when he went blasting through his pretty large social media account, defamatory stuff, saying that I deceived the public, he would not even agree to come back to a second debate. Let's for a minute presume he's being an honest guy, which is a false presumption, but let's, straw man this or steel man this or whatever you call it. Hypothetical situation. Let's presume for a moment he's being honest. And he just was lazy and didn't watch my videos before the debate, but after the debate came to the realization that caused him to say the things that he said, where he now thinks that I deceived the public and showed images out of order. Why wouldn't he agree to another debate? Just like Tyler. He said, nope, this is decided. There's no debate, not going to talk to you anymore. It doesn't seem like the way that a really honest person would behave. It seems more like a setup. It just doesn't seem honest. Same thing with Cullen. Why would he come on the show, do these, renewed sponsor-only broadcasts with me? Do people know that he took one of our sponsor-exclusive broadcasts and without asking or telling me, released it for free to the public? And that the second he did that, thousands of people saw it and stopped signing up to subscribe? Do people know that this is the only way that I make money, when people subscribe to the show on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or by following me on X at JG_CSTT. Maybe that was a mistake, but it's actually theft. If Cullen and I owned a clothing store. And then I found out that on Saturdays, he was loading up a van with the merchandise and selling it on the street corner in the Bronx. That's theft. That's what he did with the video. Disgraceful. So I'm not saying I don't care what happened to Cullen. It would be terrible if anything bad has happened to him, but I don't think that's the case. I think he realized that I figured out what he was doing, and he had to go reconfigure, or I don't know what. He could come back and address any of this. I don't want to get into a beef with him, but whether it's him, George Webb, any of these people want to talk to me directly, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that. Some fake account I saw the other day, fake name, anonymous person, said that I'm stalking George because I've been talking about him for 9 years. I'm talking about him for 9 years because he's a drunk liar who, in coordination with some of these other people that I'm talking about and others, has been trying to destroy my reputation, my ability to earn money. So Zohran Mamdani is another one of these kind of people, right? He's like a stand-in, fake kind of social engineering candidate to destroy all of New York City. Make people think one thing, but then actually go and do another. We saw that, how his demeanor changed. And then you have Charlemagne the loser yelling at Van Jones. There's just so much deception going on. I wish people would just be honest. Very upsetting. So, to change the subject a little bit, there is some good news. I hope this is good news. This is sort of counter lawfare news. I filed a, petition for appeal. This appeal is so complicated. I had tried this 2 years ago and it got screwed up. And because Nina Jankowicz is so stupid and so despicable and herself such a liar, she couldn't leave well enough alone. I'm not going to say I had forgotten about it, but I had somewhat moved on from the situation with that repulsive smear of a waste of life. I can't say enough bad things about the evil, deceptive Nina Jankowicz. A person who really does deserve to go on trial, be found guilty, and put in jail for a variety of different things. But, she, through her deceptive attorney who deserves to be disbarred, they brought this whole mess back. And ironically, first of all, I counter lawfared them and they lost. So her unconstitutional, that was a McLaren, her unconstitutional restraining order expired. And I'm no longer bound by it, so I can tell you about what a wretched piece of shit that lying bitch is. That's all opinion. No one should do anything to her. Don't call her. That's one of their favorite things to lie about, is they say, oh, Jason said X, Y, and Z, so people started calling and threatening. What's his name? Blake did exactly that. Chris Martinson said, Jason, you better give Blake that evidence bounty. I called Blake to verify the evidence. He said, oh, Jason's harassing me. And then an anonymous account, as reported by Ryan Mata, accused me of criminal activity. So this is all standard stuff. Getting hit by power washing juice. Ugh. This is standard stuff that these losers do again and again and again. Tactics that they employ across their network of social engineering morons. And they do the same thing again and again. You know why? Because it works. People fall for it. And courts fall for it. So they do it again. Why wouldn't you? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So anyway, Nina tried to re-up her stupid unconstitutional restraining order. I thwarted that lawfare effort because I become a hardened target. It's more difficult for them to do this sort of stuff to me than it was 9 years ago, or even 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago. So that got knocked out, but what it did was, because she had filed I guess it's called a precipice, it's a weird word maybe it's Latin, but this document to reopen the case, so now it was reopened. And there was a new order from the judge. And there's so much abuse of my rights going on in this case that I paid to notice the court of my appeal. And yesterday, I filed the petition for appeal. So now, I guess, and again, I'm not an attorney, so any of this could be wrong. None of it is legal advice. I'm not qualified to give legal advice, and you don't want legal advice from me. But the point is, there is now a petition for appeal before the Virginia Court of Appeals. And I guess they have 21 days to, object to it, but I don't think that's going to go anywhere for them. They could object if they want, but I'm appealing on the grounds that this thing violated my constitutional rights. It was violated, due process was violated. The judge canceled the hearing. The judge used things that Ivan Raiklan said against me. I mean, it was so ridiculous. Remember, I used to say, you got idiots like Field McConnell, who is also a social engineer, or perhaps just a really stupid guy. I think he was a social engineer trying to do stuff to David Hawkins. Is this an Audi R8? I think it is. Oh, I got a ticket. I don't think that's a standard wing there. This is actually a very tasty but kind of expensive restaurant. Every restaurant is expensive now. What was I saying? The appeal violated my constitutional rights. I mean, the judge was just totally out of hand. The real crux of it is there was never any true threat. See, and this is where they get you. Gary Melton sends me messages saying if he ever meets me, he's going hands-on and I'm not going to chew with my own teeth again. That's a direct threat to conduct violence. And frankly, I have no reason to believe that he wouldn't make good on that threat if I was ever to see him in public. So technically, that's a pretty substantial crime to send over the wires of the internet a threat, a true threat like that. That's exactly what I did not do to Nina. I said all kinds of things that were perhaps objectionable and odious, but they're rhetorical political speech, exactly the kind of speech that is protected by the First Amendment. And she is an enemy of the First Amendment. She is an authoritarian, just a despicable human being who also claims to be a media expert. See, this is the other thing that's interesting. She thinks she's a media expert, but the truth of the matter is when she goes on podcasts and talks about the topics that are important to her, 30 people watch. Okay? So what I'm saying is when I start to talk about Charlie Kirk and evidence that I've found relative to iPhone, HDR, Dolby Vision videos and how that leads to my conclusion that Charlie Kirk was shot from behind, that garners interest among millions of people. And that seems to be when they activate these higher tier people like Kyle Seraphin. It's the other thing that makes me think that Candace Owens might not be sincere. There's a lot of people we know in common. She knows Ian. Ian was looking at everything that I do. People were sending her hundreds of dollars in Super Chat saying, oh, you should look at this evidence that JG_CSTT has brought up. So she either looked at it and felt that it wasn't valuable or is deliberately avoiding it. And I think she's deliberately avoiding it because Candace has a very large platform and just even mentioning me at all would have a positive impact on my platform, but instead she chooses to talk about who? George Webb, Ryan Mata, Zeb Boykin. It's very weird. To me, it seems like she's deliberately promoting liars. I don't know why, but that's what it seems like. So again, I appreciate people saying, oh, contact Candace. I'm not going to do it. If people want to contact her, go ahead, do whatever you want. I'm not trying to stop people from doing that. But just like I'm not going to contact Cullen, I don't think that these are people who want to help me. I think they're people who might, at times, make it look like they want to help me, might want to get what they can get from me to help themselves, but they behave in ways that contradict the notion that they are allies or honest brokers who truly want to do the things that they tell us that they want to do. This contradictory behavior, right? People who say one thing but then do another. And that's the other thing. Anyone who legitimately thinks that George, that this is, Jason's word versus George's word, it's very simple. I would be happy to have a face-to-face or FaceTime, Zoom, podcast, any kind of conversation, debate with any of these people on whatever platform. And people saw me do that with that idiot Tyler Young. Even when he had me on with unserious people who were insulting me and not talking about MPEG, not talking about the evidence, not talking about anything that I had agreed to come on there and talk about, I stayed engaged. So I will talk to George. The question to ask him is, if you really think that I'm stalking him, first of all, be aware that stalking is a specific crime, and you're going to have to show how I've met the elements of that. Talking about him, he's a person in the public domain who I allege works for, contracts to, is protected by, somehow something to do with the FBI, just like Kyle Seraphin. Very weird, this lawsuit with Kash Patel's girlfriend and Kyle Seraphin. Did people see Ken Silva's article about that today? Ken is great. See, Ken, I do believe, is an honest, straight-shooting guy who's trying to find the truth about a variety of things. And like me, he seems to be suppressed by certain people who you would expect to want to elevate him. It's weird. But the question to ask George is, where is the pro se filing receipt for ECF number 12 in Swigert versus Cable News Network? He says things like, Jason stole this or that from me, Jason is lying, but he'll never be specific because those things aren't true, and he also won't confront me on those things. He won't have a conversation. I would be happy. Anybody who thinks George is great, invite him on your channel, on his channel, on my channel, over the telephone, to just discuss these things and provide factual answers to explain where is the filing receipt? How did Richard Lurie's name get on the document? How did the date June 18th get on the document when it wasn't created until June 21st? My explanation is it's a forged document, and the clerk at the court helped him forge it. Just like these images of the bullet coming right towards Charlie Kirk's head the instant before he receives a fatal injury, nobody can explain with equal scientifically derived evidence or stronger evidence what that is. Even somebody who says it was a palm gun, they still need to explain what those 3 dots are. People say, they're bugs. But then why does no other bug in that video image move in the way that one does? And you're telling me a bug just happened to be flying directly away from Charlie Kirk's neck? And by the way, it's not flying away. I say for the 1000th time, the umpteenth time, it's 3 images of a fast-moving projectile that are recorded as part of the enhancement layer of a Dolby HDR video and encoded into the stream by an algorithm that is confused by the speed of the object, the lack of information about it, the lack of motion blur. Again, I'm still getting people saying, bottom line, a cell phone can't capture a bullet. You're stupid. It's like, well, you can say that, but it's incorrect. Soon I hope to present evidence that will prove that. I don't have it yet, but I'm working on that. And I keep working to strengthen the thesis, defend the thesis, etc. So, thanks again to everybody who contributed to the evidence bounty. I think it was a very successful effort. You know, it definitely resulted in that evidence coming to the fore. And I think it actually even outed a bunch of social engineers. Look, this building is new. It's totally refurbed. That's amazing. This was a junked out building for a while. I wonder what's coming here. I don't know. We'll know soon enough. Chinese something, I'm sure. Anyway, thanks to everybody who contributed to the evidence bounty. I think it helped to reveal these social engineers. They had the evidence. How did they have it? We still don't know who that guy is who takes a picture of his own face, why would Samir Masi try to put himself, why would he involve himself with evidence in a murder? None of this makes sense. Just like George filing a forged document in court, unless the FBI is telling you, don't worry, we're not going to prosecute you, go and do it, it doesn't make sense. Don't forget, you can still sponsor Crowdsource the Truth with crypto or your credit card. Charlie Kirk was shot from behind, and no expert from any field can prove that wrong. Nobody did. There was a almost $4,500 bounty. Nobody was able to claim that. Chris Martinson said, Jason, you got to give it to Blake. Tyler Young said, you got to give it to me. Neither of them were able to present evidence and a countermanding counter thesis. Look at that. You don't see that every day. School bus getting towed by Stewie. Huh. Oh boy. Now he's blocking the light. Hopefully it changes in time. Anyway, that's it for today, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you aren't already a subscriber, please get on to subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You're going to help keep the show going, help me keep all these services going. It looks like this latency issue might be related. We got to go test it in Central Park again and see how that works, but seems to be doing all right as I say that, as I get close to this radio interference over here. Don't forget about crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or following me on X at JG_CSTT. Read this article about Dolby Vision HDR. Check out the patent, the Charlie Kirk assassination video, Dolby Vision HDR and 240 hertz subsampling, the enhancement layer that captures the images of the projectile